From the Coast to Coast AM website comes this item that I found particularly interesting, asking the question, are there reptilians living under Los Angeles? And specifically, are there reptilians living under the Hollywood area? Now, many strange creatures have been sighted in Hollywood and certainly in West Hollywood as well. But those would be the creatures on the surface. What about the creatures that may lie beneath the surface? I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and this is the gospel truth about possible reptilians living under LA and an extensive map system that was drawn as well. Interesting stuff from a few years back. Again, this was linked on the Coast to Coast AM website. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. I find it interesting for several reasons. And number one, let's just look at it for the story for what it is. There's a map exposing Hollywood reptilians living under Los Angeles that supposedly has gone viral. A map of underground tunnels and cities has exposed reptilian lizard people who allegedly have been living secretly directly under Hollywood in Los Angeles. The tunnels are said to be equipped with huge chambers that are big enough to house like 1,000 of these families. And they were discovered by a mining engineer named George Warren way back in 1933. He was an early adopter of X-rays, and that allowed him to shoot the X-rays in the ground and map out tunnels underneath. He drew a detailed map that has not been seen until now, and he believed that the reptilians were technologically and intellectually superior to humans living on the surface, and theories have emerged of them using mysterious chemicals to construct a huge network of 285 tunnels under Los Angeles. Perhaps they're like the Horta of Star Trek fame, where they're able to secrete chemicals that would break down rock and dirt and other things and enable them to be able to pass through these rock or tunnel out these tunnels. So a mining engineer named George Warren in 1933 did this, I guess you'd call it surveying, and produced this map. And of course, it's getting at least some attention. And according to Disclosed TV, the LA Times picked up on the story. And there was talk of a golden treasure belonging to the lizard people. And then the Associated Press printed it, and the story went all the way across the country. So there were these trails, 1,900 square feet of tunnels, 9,000 feet of floor space, 16 rooms in which gold was stored. And he actually received permission from the County Board of Supervisors to start a dig. And this was during the Depression. Of course, they were looking for the gold, and he agreed to share it with the city. And you can see some of the actual media coverage and some of the speculative drawings and pictures of some of the work as well that was going on, looking for reptilians underneath Los Angeles. He finally dug down about 250 feet. Surprisingly, he did not find any tunnels. Surprisingly, he did not make any discovery of treasures either. He did make a deal to split it 50-50 with the county, but finally they just gave up because, well, they didn't find anything. But Mr. Warren did remain in LA until his death in 1957. And if nothing else, he's left a legacy that we still talk about today. So the question is, to me, will someone pick up this research and look more deeply at it? Because the man was a miner, and he did employ some technology to locate what seems to be at least something that's worth taking another look at. Of course, the idea of gold is probably fanciful at the very least. But I know under LA there's under Vegas there's tunnels where people actually live, old storm drains, which don't get used very often in Vegas because there's not very much rain in Vegas. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that there could be something under LA and something living there. And of course, the native Stories talk about people living under the ground, the Hopi, and there's a lot of different stories about beings living underground, and even speculations about a hollow earth. With all the mystery surrounding Admiral Byrd's adventures in Antarctica, there's just a lot of speculation. And sometimes where there's smoke, there's just smoke, but sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. And I would think that this deserves a little more look. This deserves a little more thought, and this may actually deserve some level of research and investigation. And I think that we should open our minds to the possibility that there may be more to this earth and this world than we know. There may be more to this earth and this world than we've been told. And in fact, there may be entities and agencies that are vested in keeping us ignorant about different ways of thinking, different ways of looking at things. And for thousands and thousands of years, back to the most ancient cultures, there's stories of beings, of civilizations, or at least of creatures resident within the earth under our feet. Is it time for us to open up our minds? Is it time for us to consider? And is it time maybe for us to even begin to look and see what may be going on right under our feet? Will we find reptilians? I don't know. Will we find nothing but empty halls and maybe some cool looking rock formations? I don't know, but it seems like if we can search space, when we can search the ocean, it seems like it might be a pretty decent idea to take a look at things that might actually be right under our feet. That's at least my opinion. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your friendly Christian whistleblower. And let's take a quick look and see what some of the people in the chat room might think about it, because I think it's very interesting at the very least. Greetings from Osaka, Japan. Very nice to have you here. I've seen reports, Macabreminis has seen reports of reptilians living under Salt Lake City. I've seen those reports. Many of them connect them with the Mormon temple there. And I believe I've read reports of reptilian entities around some of the other Mormon temples around the country. Jen Fisher says that her reptilian client is coming in tomorrow. I want to call her out. I think I'll be sly and say, Draco says what? What do you think? I think you should ask her, Jen, are there people, reptilian entities living in cavernous dwellings under our earth? Tamu and Gina, who's up late. I thought she would be a pumpkin by now. Here's that LA is a dark place. LA is an interesting place. And Lee Veltman likes LA. I kind of like LA too. I wouldn't want to live there, but I do kind of like LA. It's got an interesting vibe to it. Lots of things going on in that place. And I think that reptilians under the ground might even be the least of things that were there. And if you think about Parsons and Hubbard out there in the Southern California area, opening up their portal, and since they opened that portal, there's lots of sightings of reptilian type creatures in that Devil's Gorge or Devil's Canyon. I can't remember exactly what it's called. So who knows what those two crazy rascals opened up and let loose. LA is as bright and as dark as you want it to be, probably. We do have gators in Florida. I imagine some of them probably do get into the sewers from time to time. There are some people who look like reptilians in Hollywood, that's for sure. Jen says she has a reptilian client. She's been talking about it for some time, and she thinks that, she says she's got one. So I would have to agree with her. And yes, the sound has been going the whole broadcast, so I'm very happy about that. She doesn't know that I know. She doesn't know that she knows. I gotcha. Well, you're going to have to get over that pet peeve when you're dealing on the internet. Let us know how it goes. Yeah, we'll be glad to hear about that. Interesting. Underground tunnels, aquifers, rivers. She probably knows that you know, is what the Rain Man says. Please, Lee Veltman says, please tell me I'm not the only one who knows about Donald Marshall. Well, I'm going to Google Donald Marshall right now. Lee Veltman says, is he the only one that knows about Donald Marshall? I would say that this is the Donald Marshall that we're talking about. Donald Marshall. Revolution.com. Donald Marshall Revolution. Discover the truth. Well, these are the accounts of Donald Marshall, former Illuminati insider turned internet whistleblower. He's talking about global organizations, secret involvements in criminal acts, murder, kidnapping, torture, child abuse, exploitation, Queen Elizabeth, Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Charles, the whole roster. It's an unofficial and unauthorized website created to help spread information about his stuff. So I'm guessing, since Lee brought him up, that he must talk about things that go into the ideas of reptilians. Tamu Ingina, go to bed. There's always got to be someone. You're going to get Jeff started. I agree with the Rain Man too. Oh, here we go. And I just lost my place. Sorry about that. Call me Sterling. Okay, will do. All right. I speculate. Oh, here we go. That's absolutely correct, Jeff. L.A. Marzulli, I'm not saying he's a reptilian, but the initials in his first name kind of point to that. Is he a king reptilian? That's hilarious. There is a planet possibly. Call me Sterling. I will do that. I think right under our feet is probably accurate. No clones. Be careful about the talk. Yeah, please do. They say it under the temple. Yes. Plus, if you knew my mother, ha! Someone would have seen one by now. No. A lot of people have seen them. A lot of people have seen reptilian type creatures entering and exiting the earth. Feed her a mouse. That's funny. That's funny. I don't know what to think too much about it. I know someone who lives in LA. She believes the Hollywood pedo scene. Yeah. Hollywood pedo stuff is an issue, no doubt about it. There's been reports of a lizard man in South Carolina. That's right. I can't remember his name. Maybe he's a South Carolina lizard man. You're the only one who knows DM and me equals 2. Clone. Yeah. My kids did some background work in Holy Weird. There's some weird stuff going on for sure. Sounds like the entertainment industry. I'm not buying into Donald Marshall. I'm not saying he's a shill, but all signs point to it. So there you go. Interesting stuff. And I think that there's probably much more than meets the eye to the whole idea of reptilians. I think there's probably much more than meets the eye to the idea of stuff going on beneath the surface of the earth that we don't know about. And I'd really like to get more into the whole Mormon temple reptilian type of thing. Yeah, LA's real first name is Lynn. So I guess that explains why he goes by LA. Maybe he's got a little problem with having a girl's name, but I mean, not only girls are named Lynn. So, but you know, he obviously has some issues within himself because he won't even admit what he said, and he won't. He's no Chris Putnam. Chris Putnam was a man. Apparently, many alien species exist as interterrestrials, while most folks focus on extraterrestrials. Good point, Hillary. I think you're probably right. There's a lot more going on in our own seas, and I was reading a lot today about, instead of UFOs, but USOs, unidentified submerged objects. Maybe that is the big trick, Jen Fisher. The South Carolina lizard man was in a documentary on TV in Osaka the other night, says Sterling. How about that? Isn't that interesting? I've not seen a lizard man, but I know that people have seen the lizard man. Credible people have seen the lizard man. Many of the native legends, of course, talk about reptilian people under the earth. And you have people out in the desert Southwest that see them with some regularity. They've been seen in the Far East. They've been seen like in the Philippines and things like that. Joe Gerhardt says there's USOs off Catalina. And Michelle said there's a Mormon church built across the street from where she used to live. I think most of the activity that I'm aware of is confined to the temples, and I would think maybe even the older temples, but it would certainly be interesting to hang out, maybe get some night vision, check things out until you got arrested for hanging out and checking things out. I think that some reptilians are benevolent, and they're probably hiding because they don't want to get shot. Underwater submarine objects off Catalina. Crazy, but true. And I think it's probably a lot more true than we think it is. And Jen's reptilian client is nice. I think Jen cuts hair, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't know that they had hair like we did, Jen. Are you sure? It's a wig. Give it a good tug. Maybe she's just coming to you for cover. Maybe you're like the beard. I have heard people speculate that it is the Lemurians or the Atlanteans. Perhaps when the church here is in town, used to be a funeral parlor. Now that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Robert Brown. So there you have it. That's my input on reptilians living under Los Angeles. And you remember they had the invasion of Los Angeles with UFOs over LA back in the day. UFOs over LA, reptilians under LA, and weirdos on the streets of LA. Check out The Witch Doctor and the Man, City Under the Sea, Bishop Canco. I have heard of that. That's interesting speculation for sure. Saint Germain, Lost Lake of Gold. Doesn't that have to do with killing the dragon and stuff like that? Very interesting stuff. There again, we have dragons, water, underground. Interesting stuff. Interesting speculations, and certainly some things to keep you wondering, to keep you guessing, and to keep you studying. Just when you think you've heard of everything, just when you think you know everything, well, trust me, you don't. Before you leave, please subscribe if you have not subscribed. And please hit the subscribe button again just to make sure that you are subscribed, because many people are getting dropped from the rolls. So please make sure you do that. The ant people in Hopi prophecy, but they're not really so much ants as they might be reptilian as well, but they could be ant people as well as reptilian. So there you go. Dragons being reptilian ships. That's interesting. Jen Fisher. I like that idea. That was St. George dragon killing. Okay, St. Germain, St. George. Justin Bieber has been said to shapeshift a couple of times. That's funny too. And of course, we got the Queen being a velociraptor. William Cooper, I bought his book, read a few pages of it. He was a great researcher, not so much a great writer, but I will get back into it because you owe the man at least to look at him for the history and the work that he did, whether you're pro Bill Cooper or anti Bill Cooper. Do they go underground when the cycles come where it's too hot to stay on the surface? I think most of them stay underground pretty much all the time. So there you go. Well, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your friendly neighborhood Christian whistleblower. I do salute all of you who are here seeking truth, even at 11:21 p.m. on the East Coast. My voice is shot And I don't know why I didn't do a whole lot of yelling and screaming today, but we did do quite a few videos. So maybe it's just attrition. William Cooper and the Underground Battle. Huh. I don't know if that's in the Behold the Pale Horse book, but if it is, I will get to it. I got a few books that I'm trying to get through. And in fact, here's William Cooper's book right here. Behold a Pale Horse. And you can see how far I got in it. Not too far. He's not a gripping writer, but I do owe it to the legacy of the man to read the book. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to read it. Good night, Tamu and Gina. Good night, the rest of you as well. I salute you. Remember, no original sin. Spark of divinity within. That's why you can love yourself and love everybody else as well. Make the change you want to see. Stay fearless, my friends. And I think it's nap time. And on that note, thanks, everybody. God bless the GTA and the Deep Underground Military Bases part. I'll get to that. That's in this book. I will definitely read it. Nice to see you, everybody. Stay fearless, my friends. And someone always says thirsty, too. And with that, good night to Sterling in Osaka and everybody else. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Peace out.